Hey, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Impressive Real Life Stories. Today, I bring you a powerful and deeply loving story. Emma Hayes smoothed down her burgundy dress for the third time in 5 minutes, feeling completely out of place among the glittering crowd. The rooftop gala overlooked the city skyline, with crystal chandeliers casting warm light over guests who clearly belonged in this world of wealth and elegance. She did not. Her best friend Lily Chen appeared at her elbow, pressing a fresh glass of champagne into her hand. You look like you are about to bolt for the exit. Relax and enjoy yourself. Easy for you to say, Emma replied, watching a woman in diamonds laugh at something her companion said. You actually know people here. I am just your +1 who works in marketing, not high society. Lily rolled her eyes affectionately. That is exactly your problem. You have been playing it safe for too long. When was the last time you did something completely wild and unexpected? Emma took a sip of champagne, considering the question. I took a different route to work last Tuesday. That was pretty spontaneous. Oh please. Lily's dark eyes sparkled with mischief, a look Emma had learned to fear over their 10 years of friendship. I have a proposition for you. A bet, actually. No. Whatever it is, absolutely not. Hear me out first. Lily gestured around the elegant space. See all these people? I bet you cannot walk up to any man here, a complete stranger, and kiss him. Just walk up and kiss him like you do it every day. Emma felt her cheeks flush hot. Are you completely insane? I cannot just kiss random people. That is assault, Lily. That is a crime. Not if you ask first, Lily countered smoothly. Or make it obvious what you are about to do so he can step back if he wants. Come on, Emma. You are 27 years old and the most exciting thing you have done this year is switch from regular to oat milk. Live a little. Emma should have laughed it off. She should have changed the subject or suggested they leave. But something in Lily's words struck a nerve. Her life had become a predictable pattern of routines and caution. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch television, sleep, repeat. When had she stopped taking chances? When had she become so afraid of the unexpected? What are the stakes? Emma heard herself ask, surprising them both. Lily's jaw dropped. Wait, you are seriously considering this? What are the stakes? Emma repeated, her heart already beginning to race with nervous energy. If you do it, I will pay for that graphic design course you have been wanting to take. The expensive one. If you back out, you have to come to my mother's matchmaking dinner next month and smile through the whole thing. Emma groaned. Lily's mother had been trying to set her up with the son of every family friend for the past 2 years. The thought of sitting through another awkward dinner while Mrs. Chen listed the accomplishments of some engineer or lawyer was enough to make her seriously consider the alternative. Fine, Emma said before her logical brain could talk her out of it. But I choose who. Deal. Lily could barely contain her excitement. Oh my gosh, you are actually going to do this. Quick, before you change your mind. Emma scanned the rooftop, her stomach twisting with nerves and something else, something that felt almost like excitement. Most of the men were clustered in groups, talking loudly or clearly interested in their conversations. Then her gaze landed on the far corner where a stone fountain bubbled softly. He stood alone, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a glass of what looked like whiskey. His navy suit fit perfectly, tailored to emphasize broad shoulders and a lean frame. Even from across the rooftop, there was something about him that drew her attention. The way he stood apart from the crowd, seemingly lost in thought, made him seem both powerful and somehow lonely. Him, Emma whispered, nodding toward the fountain. Lily followed her gaze and let out a low whistle. Excellent choice. He looks like he stepped out of a magazine. Now go before your courage disappears. Emma walked toward him on unsteady legs, each step feeling surreal. This was absolutely crazy. She did not do things like this. Emma Hayes followed rules, met deadlines, and never made scenes. Yet here she was, crossing a rooftop to kiss a complete stranger because of a bet. He did not notice her approach. His profile was striking against the city lights behind him, all sharp angles and classical features. Dark hair, styled but slightly mussed as if he had run his fingers through it. A strong jaw. Eyes focused on something far beyond the party. "Excuse me," Emma said softly when she was close enough. He turned, and Emma felt her breath catch. Up close, he was even more attractive. His eyes were a striking blue-gray, intelligent and guarded. Surprise flickered across his face at finding someone standing so close. "Yes?" His voice was deep, with a quality that made her stomach flutter. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. This was her last chance to back out, to laugh and apologize and walk away. Instead, she stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am about to do something incredibly forward. You can step back if you want." His eyebrows rose slightly, confusion and curiosity mixing in his expression. "What are you?" Emma closed the distance between them, rising on her toes. She placed one hand gently on his chest, feeling his sharp intake of breath, and pressed her lips to his. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. The party sounds faded. The city lights blurred. There was only the warmth of his mouth, the faint taste of expensive whiskey, the subtle scent of his cologne, something woodsy and sophisticated. Then his free hand found her waist, fingers spreading across the small of her back. Instead of pushing her away, he pulled her closer. The kiss deepened, becoming something far more intense than she had planned. Heat flooded through her body, every nerve ending coming alive. His lips moved against hers with a confidence that made her knees weak. When they finally broke apart, both breathing harder, Emma felt dizzy. His eyes searched hers, a mixture of shock and fascination and something darker, something that made her pulse race even faster. "I am so sorry," Emma whispered, though she was not sure she meant it. "That was a bet. I should not have. Thank you for not calling security." Before he could respond, before her courage could completely evaporate, Emma turned and walked quickly back toward where Lily stood with her mouth hanging open. "Oh my God," Lily grabbed her arm. "That was the hottest thing I have ever seen. Emma, he is still watching you. You have to go back and get his name at least." "No, absolutely not." Emma's face felt like it was on fire. "We are leaving right now. That was the deal. I did it, now we leave." "But Emma, you cannot just. Now, Lily. Please." As they headed toward the elevator, Emma could not resist one glance back. He stood exactly where she had left him, his gaze following her through the crowd. Even from across the rooftop, she could feel the intensity of his stare. Something passed between them, a connection she could not explain or name. The elevator doors closed, and Emma leaned against the wall, her heart still racing. What had she just done? Who was he? Would she ever see him again? She tried to convince herself it did not matter. It was just a kiss, just a moment of spontaneity to prove she could break her own rules. By tomorrow, it would be a funny story to tell. By next week, she would barely remember his face. She had no idea how wrong she was. The new beginning. Emma arrived at Sterling Enterprises 45 minutes early on Monday morning, her coffee already half finished and her nerves stretched thin. The entire weekend had been a blur of anxious preparation and persistent memories of that kiss. No matter how hard she tried to focus on her presentation materials, her mind kept drifting back to the mysterious man at the party. "Stop it," she told herself firmly, smoothing her charcoal gray blazer. "That was a one-time thing. You will never see him again. Focus on what matters." What mattered was making a perfect impression on Cameron Blake, the new CEO taking over Sterling Enterprises. At 28, Emma had worked incredibly hard to climb from an entry-level marketing assistant to senior marketing coordinator. She had sacrificed weekends, worked late nights, and proven herself on project after project. This was her chance to show the new leadership that she deserved a seat at the strategy table. The office buzzed with nervous energy. Employees clustered around coffee machines and in doorways, exchanging whispered rumors about the new CEO. Emma settled at her desk, reviewing her notes for the third time. Her colleague Rachel leaned over the cubicle wall, eyes wide with excitement. "Did you hear the latest?" Apparently, Cameron Blake turned around 3 failing companies before he turned 30. Some people say he is brilliant but demanding. Others say he is ruthless. Emma looked up from her notes. "Ruthless how?" Rachel lowered her voice. "I heard he fired half the management team at his last company within the first month. Just walked in, evaluated everyone, and made cuts. No mercy." "That is just a rumor," Emma replied, trying to ignore the anxiety building in her chest. "We should wait to judge him until we actually meet him." "I suppose you are right." Rachel checked her watch. "The all-staff meeting starts in 20 minutes. Are you nervous?" Terrified, Emma admitted with a slight smile. "But I have been preparing all weekend. I want him to know that the marketing department has valuable insights to offer." The conference room filled quickly, every seat taken and people lining the walls. Emma managed to snag a chair in the third row, her presentation folder clutched in her hands. Around her, colleagues murmured their anxieties and speculations. "I heard he graduated top of his class at Harvard," someone whispered behind her. "My friend at his previous company said he expects excellence but rewards innovation," another voice added. The room fell silent as the door opened. Patricia Jenkins from Human Resources entered first, her professional smile not quite hiding her own nervousness. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here on time. It is my great pleasure to introduce our new Chief Executive Officer, Cameron Blake." Emma looked up as he walked into the room, and her entire world tilted sideways. It was him. The man from the party. The man she had kissed. Time seemed to slow down as their eyes met across the crowded conference room. She watched recognition flash across his face, his stride faltering for just a fraction of a second. His expression shifted from professional composure to surprise, then to something that looked almost like amusement. No. This could not be happening. Of all the people in this city, of all the men at that party, she had kissed her new boss. Her new CEO. "Good morning," Cameron said, his deep voice filling the room with easy authority. His gaze lingered on Emma for just a moment longer before sweeping across the rest of the assembled staff. "I am looking forward to working with each of you and learning what makes Sterling Enterprises special." Emma barely heard his speech. Her mind raced with panic and 1,000 questions. Did he remember her? Of course he remembered her. You do not forget someone who randomly kisses you at a party. Was he angry? Amused? Would he fire her immediately? Would he think she had done it on purpose, somehow knowing who he was and trying to manipulate her way into his good graces? Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her folder. Around her, colleagues nodded at Cameron's words about vision and growth and innovation. Emma forced herself to focus, to listen, to appear normal even though her heart hammered against her ribs. Cameron spoke with confidence and clarity about his plans for the company. He emphasized collaboration, fresh thinking, and rewarding talent. He made eye contact with various employees as he spoke, his presence commanding without being overbearing. When his gaze returned to Emma, she felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I will be meeting with department heads this week," Cameron continued. "But I also want to hear from team members at all levels. Innovation does not just come from the top. If you have ideas, insights, or concerns, my door will be open." The meeting lasted 45 minutes. Emma tried to take notes, but her handwriting was barely legible. She felt like every eye in the room could somehow sense her mortification, as if her secret was written across her forehead in bold letters. When Cameron finally concluded his remarks, the room erupted in polite applause. Employees began gathering their things, the nervous chatter resuming immediately. Emma stood quickly, desperate to escape before anyone could strike up a conversation. She needed to get to the bathroom, splash cold water on her face, and figure out how to handle this impossible situation. Emma Hayes, correct? She froze, her blood turning to ice. Cameron stood right beside her, close enough that she caught the scent of his cologne. The same sophisticated, woodsy scent from that night. Every detail came rushing back with startling clarity. "Yes, sir," Emma managed, keeping her voice steady through sheer force of will. "My office, please." He kept his tone professional, but she could see something flicker in his eyes. Now would be good. Every head in the conference room turned toward them. Emma felt dozens of pairs of eyes tracking their movement as she followed Cameron out, her face burning. She could already hear the whispers starting before the door even closed behind them. The walk to the executive floor felt like miles. Emma's heels clicked against the polished floors, each step echoing her rising panic. Cameron walked slightly ahead, his posture relaxed but purposeful. He did not speak, did not look back, just led her through the hallways she had walked 1,000 times but which now felt completely foreign. His office occupied the corner of the top floor with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. The space was still being set up, boxes stacked neatly against one wall, but his desk was already positioned to face the windows. Everything about the office spoke of power and success. Cameron closed the door behind them with a soft click that seemed to echo in Emma's ears. He walked to his desk, leaning against it casually, his arms crossed as he studied her. "So," he said, and despite the professional setting, Emma heard the hint of amusement in his voice. "This is unexpected." Emma forced herself to meet his gaze, to stand tall despite wanting to disappear into the floor. "Mr. Blake, I need you to know that I had absolutely no idea who you were that night. I would never. I did not. It was a stupid bet with my friend, and I am so incredibly sorry." "A bet," Cameron repeated, one eyebrow rising. "You kiss strangers at parties because of bets?" "Not usually. Never, actually. That was the first and only time." Emma could feel her face burning hotter. "I know how this looks, and I completely understand if you want to fire me or transfer me to another department. I just need you to believe that it was not some calculated move. I did not know you would be the new CEO." Cameron studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, to her utter shock, a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Relax, Emma. I am not going to fire you." "You are not?" "No." He pushed away from the desk, walking to the windows with his hands in his pockets. "That night at the party, I was there because my business partner dragged me along. I had just finalized the deal to take over Sterling and was not in the mood to socialize. I went to that rooftop to be alone, to think." He turned back to face her, and Emma saw something vulnerable in his expression that surprised her. "Then you appeared," Cameron continued. "And did something so unexpected, so bold, that I forgot about work for the first time in months. Yes, it was shocking. But it was also the most interesting thing that happened to me all night." Emma did not know what to say. She had prepared herself for anger or disappointment, not this. However, Cameron's tone shifted back to professional. "We do need to establish some boundaries. You work for me now. What happened at the party cannot affect our professional relationship. Can you handle that?" "Absolutely," Emma said quickly, relief flooding through her. "Complete professionalism. You will not even remember I am the same person." "I doubt that," Cameron said quietly, then seemed to catch himself. "Your file says you have been with Sterling for 6 years. The marketing campaigns for our healthcare and technology clients have been particularly successful. Your supervisor speaks highly of your strategic thinking. Emma blinked, surprised that he had already reviewed her work. Thank you, sir. I want fresh perspectives on our upcoming rebranding initiative. You will be part of the core team working directly with me on strategy. Are you interested? Emma's heart leaped. It was the opportunity she had been working toward for years. Yes, absolutely. I have actually been developing some ideas about how we could. Good. We will have our first strategy session Wednesday morning. Prepare your best thinking. He moved toward the door, clearly ending the meeting. And Emma? One more thing. Yes? Cameron's blue-gray eyes met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. What happened at the party stays between us. No one else needs to know. Agreed? Agreed, Emma whispered. As she left his office and headed back to her desk, Emma's mind whirled with conflicting emotions. Relief that she was not fired. Excitement about the opportunity to prove herself. And underneath it all, something more complicated and dangerous. The memory of that kiss, the way Cameron had pulled her closer, the connection that had sparked between them. This was going to be much more difficult than she had imagined. 3 weeks had passed since that awkward first meeting in Cameron's office, and Emma had thrown herself into work with single-minded determination. If she stayed busy enough, focused enough on spreadsheets and strategy documents, she could almost forget the way her heart raced every time Cameron walked into a room. Almost. The rebranding initiative had become all-consuming. Emma found herself staying late most evenings, working alongside a small team that included Cameron. They had fallen into a rhythm of professional collaboration, their interactions carefully polite and focused entirely on business. Yet beneath the surface, Emma felt the constant hum of awareness, the memory of that kiss lingering like an unspoken secret between them. It was nearly 8 in the evening when Emma finally looked up from her computer, rubbing her tired eyes. The office had emptied hours ago, leaving only the soft glow of desk lamps and the city lights visible through the windows. She gathered her notes for tomorrow's presentation, preparing to head home. Still here? Cameron's voice came from behind her, making her jump slightly. She turned to find him leaning against a nearby cubicle, his tie loosened and his jacket draped over one arm. He looked tired but somehow even more attractive with his usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled. Just finishing up some research on competitor positioning, Emma replied, keeping her voice steady. I wanted to have everything ready for the morning meeting. Cameron nodded, walking closer. I have been reviewing your consumer analysis from last week. Your insights about the demographic shift were excellent. You see patterns that others miss. Thank you, Emma said, surprised by the genuine praise. I just pay attention to what people actually want instead of what we think they should want. That is exactly the kind of thinking we need. Cameron glanced at his watch. Have you eaten dinner? I was about to order something from the Italian place downstairs. You are welcome to join me. We could go over some of the final details for the presentation. Emma hesitated. Every instinct told her that having dinner alone with Cameron, even a working dinner, was dangerous territory. But she was hungry, and they did need to finalize several key points before tomorrow. Sure, she heard herself say. That would be helpful. They ended up in the small conference room with containers of pasta and a bottle of wine that Cameron had apparently kept in his office for late nights. Emma tried to maintain professional distance, focusing on the presentation slides displayed on her laptop, but the intimacy of the quiet office and the wine slowly warming her blood made it increasingly difficult. Can I ask you something personal? Cameron said suddenly, setting down his fork. Emma looked up, her heart skipping. That depends on the question. Why marketing? You clearly have the analytical mind for finance or strategy consulting. Those paths typically pay better and offer faster advancement. Emma considered the question, twirling pasta around her fork. When I was 15, my mom got sick. Cancer. The doctors gave her 6 months, but she fought for 3 years. During that time, I watched how certain advertisements and campaigns made her feel. Some made her feel like a victim, like she was already gone. But others made her feel empowered, like she was still living her life fully. She paused, surprised by how easily the words came. I realized that marketing is not just about selling products. It is about telling stories that connect with people, that make them feel seen and understood. I wanted to do that. To create campaigns that matter. Cameron watched her intently, something shifting in his expression. I am sorry about your mom. Thank you. She taught me to take chances, to not waste time being afraid. Emma smiled softly, then realized what she had said. The irony was not lost on her. Except in my personal life, I suppose. I became pretty cautious after she died. Is that why you kissed a stranger at a party? Cameron's voice was quiet, the question hanging between them. To prove you could still take chances? Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. Maybe. My friend Lily was right that I had been playing it too safe. I just did not expect the consequences to be quite so complicated. Cameron set down his wine glass, his blue-gray eyes holding hers. Do you regret it? The question felt loaded with meaning beyond the words. Emma's mouth went dry. I regret that it made things awkward at work. That was not what I asked. The air between them felt charged, electric. Emma knew she should deflect, should turn the conversation back to safe professional topics. Instead, she found herself being honest. No, she said softly. I do not regret the kiss itself. Neither do I, Cameron admitted, his voice dropping lower. They stared at each other across the table, the presentation forgotten. Emma felt her pulse quicken, awareness crackling between them like static electricity. This was dangerous. This was exactly what they had agreed would not happen. Cameron, we should not. I know, he interrupted, but he did not look away. We agreed to keep things professional. And I fully intend to honor that agreement. But I would be lying if I said I had not thought about that night. About you. Emma's breath caught. I have thought about it too. About you. But you are my boss. There are policies, ethical considerations. If anyone found out. I know all the reasons why this is a bad idea, Cameron said, standing and walking to the windows. Believe me, I have listed them all repeatedly. You work for me. Any relationship would create conflicts of interest. It could undermine your credibility and mine. People would assume you got opportunities because of favoritism rather than merit. He turned back to face her, and Emma saw the conflict written clearly across his features. But the truth is, Cameron continued, I have not been able to stop thinking about you since that night. The way you walked up with such courage, the way you tasted like champagne and uncertainty. And then working with you these past weeks, seeing your brilliant mind in action, watching you defend your ideas with such passion. You are remarkable, Emma. Emma stood slowly, her legs unsteady. This was the moment. She could walk away, maintain professional boundaries, protect her career. Or she could take another chance, risk everything for something that felt impossibly right despite all the reasons it was wrong. What do we do? She asked quietly. Before Cameron could answer, both their phones buzzed simultaneously. Emma grabbed hers, seeing an urgent message from the IT department. System breach. All senior staff report immediately. Cameron was already reading the same message, his expression shifting instantly to professional focus. We need to go. This is serious. The next 4 hours were chaos. A sophisticated cyber attack had targeted Sterling's client database. Cameron took command immediately, coordinating with IT security, legal, and communications. Emma found herself working at his side, helping draft client notifications and managing the crisis response strategy. She watched him handle the emergency with calm authority, making difficult decisions quickly while remaining considerate of his team's stress levels. When a junior IT analyst broke down in tears, worried she would be blamed, Cameron personally reassured her and protected her from the chief technology officer's initial anger. By 2 a.m, they had contained the breach and begun implementing additional security protocols. Cameron called an end to the emergency session, thanking everyone for their dedication and promising a full review in the morning. Emma gathered her things slowly, exhausted but energized by the intensity of the night. Cameron appeared beside her, looking equally tired. "You were exceptional tonight," he said quietly. "The way you handled communications kept everyone focused. You have natural leadership abilities." "You were not bad yourself," Emma replied with a small smile. "I have never seen someone manage a crisis so effectively while still caring about the people involved." They walked to the elevator together, the building eerily quiet at this hour. When the doors closed, leaving them alone in the small space, the tension from earlier returned immediately. "Emma," Cameron began, but she interrupted him. "I know what you are going to say. Tonight was intense, emotions were high, we should not make decisions when we are exhausted." "Actually," Cameron said, a slight smile touching his lips, "I was going to say that watching you tonight made me even more certain of something I have been trying to deny for weeks. I am falling for you, Emma. I know it is complicated and difficult and possibly a terrible idea. But I cannot pretend anymore that what I feel is just attraction or professional admiration." The elevator reached the parking garage, the doors sliding open. Neither of them moved. Emma's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. Everything she had worked for could be compromised by this. People would talk, make assumptions, question every achievement. But as she looked at Cameron, at the vulnerability and honesty in his eyes, she realized something important. Her mother had taught her not to waste time being afraid. Life was too short to let fear make all the decisions. And what she felt for Cameron was not just attraction. It was connection, understanding, the sense that she had found someone who challenged and inspired her in equal measure. "I am falling for you too," Emma admitted, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. "And you are right, it is complicated and potentially a disaster for both our careers. So what do we do about it?" Cameron stepped closer, his hand reaching up to gently cup her face. "We figure it out together. Carefully, transparently, with clear boundaries at work. We tell HR, we make sure there is no conflict of interest in your reporting structure. We do this the right way so that your achievements are never questioned. And if people still talk, if they assume the worst, then we prove them wrong," Cameron said firmly. "Your talent speaks for itself, Emma. I will not let anyone diminish what you have earned. But I also cannot walk away from this, from you, without at least trying." Emma leaned into his touch, feeling the rightness of the decision settling over her. It would not be easy. There would be challenges and gossip and difficult conversations. But some risks were worth taking. "Okay," she whispered. "Let us try." Cameron smiled, a genuine expression of happiness that transformed his entire face. Then he leaned down and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. It was different from that first kiss at the party. That had been wild and impulsive. This was deliberate and meaningful, the beginning of something real. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Emma laughed softly. "So much for keeping things professional." "We lasted 3 weeks, Cameron pointed out, his arms still around her waist. "That shows remarkable restraint. What happens now?" "Now," Cameron said, pressing a kiss to her forehead, "we go home and get some sleep. Tomorrow we deal with the cyber attack aftermath and have some very official conversations with human resources. And then we figure out how to navigate this one day at a time." Emma nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. As they walked to their cars, hands linked in the empty garage, she thought about that night at the party. How a single impulsive kiss had set everything in motion. How taking one risk had led to opportunities and complications and, impossibly, to this man beside her. Life had a strange way of working out when you were brave enough to take chances. Emma had kissed a stranger and found her CEO. Now she was choosing to risk her carefully built career for the possibility of something more. It was terrifying and exhilarating and absolutely right. 6 months later, Emma would present the successful rebranding campaign to the board of directors, earning a promotion to marketing director based entirely on merit. Cameron would recuse himself from the decision, having already transferred her to report directly to the chief operating officer to avoid any appearance of favoritism. And when they announced their relationship publicly, while there would be whispers and speculation, Emma's track record would speak louder than gossip. But that night in the parking garage, they were just two people who had taken a chance on connection, who had chosen courage over caution, and who were willing to face whatever came next together. Sometimes the best stories begin with a dare. Sometimes they begin with a kiss. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, they begin with both. The end.